Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith. Today, I'm talking about The Science of Agatha Christie by Meg Hafdahl and Kelly Florence. This is from Skyhorse Publishing. And, if you can read that, this is the truth behind Hercule Poirot, Miss Marple, and more iconic characters from The Queen of Crime. This is the sixth book in Meg and Kelly's Science of series. Let's think about this. We have the Science of Monsters, the Science of Women in Horror, the Science of Stephen King, the Science of Witchcraft, the Science of Serial Killers. So this is book number 6. I think I got those last two out of order, but I'm not 100% sure, but I think I did. Anyway, so what this is the authors take Agatha Christie books and use those as a jumping off point for just facts, information. I don't know how else to put that. And with this book, for the too long didn't watch crowd, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Essentially, if you've seen my reviews of their other Science of books, it's basically the same thing. The things I liked about those books are what I like about this book. The things that I wasn't a fan of in those books, same thing here. Excuse me. So first of all, I do like the information about Agatha Christie. Now, this is not a biography. So essentially we're getting the highlights and then some interesting tidbits about Agatha Christie herself, which I found interesting. This isn't a detailed biography of Agatha Christie, but we get a little taste of who she was. So that was cool. And I think one of my favorite parts, I don't have to think about it, is the interviews. So, as I said, the authors take a book. They start with, let's just go to the table of contents here, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, Agatha Christie's first book, introduction of Hercule Poirot. They end with Sleeping Murder, Agatha Christie's last published book. So a bunch in between, and they use those to say, in such and such book, this sort of thing happens, there's poison, and then they'll talk about what are the origins of poisons being used to murder people, and then they'll maybe interview somebody. So there are a few interviews in here, and those are always a highlight to me. We get some very interesting discussions and very knowledgeable people talking about things. And so I enjoy those. I enjoy the personal touch every once in a while. You're reading along and it will say something like, I, and then in parentheses, Kelly, saw this movie, blah, 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 a little personal anecdote. Or I, Meg, went to a production of this play based on this Agatha Christie and blah, 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 blah. I like those little personal touches. I like that there are little trivia tidbits thrown in every once in a while. These little things here. And I feel like there was something else and I lost it. The cons, as I said, the same for the other books, and it's basically one. As much as I like all of the little bits of information, trivia, knowledge that they're giving us, I think I would enjoy it a little more if they maybe dropped some of it and focused a little more on some of it. And I'm not saying any specific, don't, drop this one specifically, focus on this one specifically. It's just that a lot of things are very superficial in what we're told. They'll ask a question. What is the history of such and such? And then we just get a couple sentences and they move on to the next subject. Some subjects they spend a little more time on. I'd rather see, instead of, let's say, 50 little tidbits of information, 25 subjects that they expand on a little more. And I felt that way about the other books. As enjoyable as these are, and I like the writing, they're very good writers. But I do, I would like to see a little more focus, I think, on fewer things, if that makes sense. And then the other thing is just an aesthetic, personal thing, which is I would really like to see breaks in between the subjects. So I said they'll what's the history of fingerprinting, which I think is actually in one of their other ones. But what is the history of fingerprinting? And it'll go into it, whether it's just a few sentences or a couple of paragraphs, and then immediately followed by there's such and such. What is the history of that? And there's no break. There's nothing to. If you read like me, I'm just flowing along, and it's not horrible. It just takes a second for me to adjust to the fact that they're on a different topic, and just a couple spaces between kind of chapter breaks or whatever, paragraph breaks. I don't know what you call that stuff. But so let's just say I'm just picking this page at random. Let's just say they changed subjects here, put a space between these two paragraphs. That's me. That's a little tiny thing, and it has, again, that's just an aesthetic thing. That's on the editor, the publisher. I don't know. But so overall, as I said, 4 out of 5. I enjoyed it. I'm not the biggest Agatha Christie fan. I have read some. I've seen some of the movies, and they do, for every book they talk about, and they do mention books other than just the ones, the 20 that are chapters, essentially. Each chapter is a book. They mention others, but each one they mention, they talk about the adaptations. This was made into a movie this year, also made into a movie this year. It was adapted in the Ms. Marple TV series, or in this. So they give all sorts of information. So lots of really great Agatha Christie trivia. And so that's always fun. And they spoil some of the mysteries. They do give away, but they'll tell you, all right, we're going to spoil it because this is sort of what we're going to have to talk about. But not all of them. By I'd say less than half, I think, they spoil. And some of them that they spoil are some of the most popular stories. So if you're a Christie fan, you already know. But there are, again, I haven't read a lot of Agatha Christie, so there were some they're like, spoilers, we're going to talk about this. I was like, wow, that's a good twist. That's a good on you, Agatha Christie, for coming up with that. But so overall, enjoyable. This whole series has been enjoyable. I always look forward to when they have a new book coming out. This came out, I got it pretty quickly, and then just finished what I was reading and jumped into this. I usually jump into these as soon as I can once they're out and in my hands. So I think that should tell you something. So that's The Science of Agatha Christie by Meg Hafdahl and Kelly Florence. And they're fun. 4 out of 5 stars. Excuse me. I recommend the whole series. But it is nice that, like, if you're an Agatha... Pardon me. It's that kind of evening. If you're an Agatha Christie fan, you could just pick this one up. If you're a Stephen King fan, you can just pick that one up. If you're just interested in serial killers, etc. And I think their next book, they're doing a book about haunted. Now I'm not sure It's either a book about actual haunted locations throughout the country or haunted attractions throughout the country. Now I don't remember. But I believe that's their next book. So it's not a Science Of. It's not part of this series. I don't believe. But anyway, I look forward to it. Whatever they're putting out, I'm going to pick up and I'm going to read. And they're really nice people too. And they have a podcast, Horror Rewind podcast. So yeah, check it out. The Science of Agatha Christie. Meg Hafdahl, Kelly Florence, 4 out of 5 stars. Question for this video. Are you an Agatha Christie fan? Have you read the books? Do you just watch the movies? Do you not care at all? As I said, not a huge fan of Agatha Christie. I could take her or leave her. I read Halloween Party last October because I decided, I think in September and October, I just read all Halloween-themed books. Not just, horror, because I read horror all the time, but I specifically went for Halloween-themed. And so Halloween Party sounded good. And that's the current movie that is out as of this recording, or is coming out. I think it's out, because I think I've seen reviews. Haunting in Venice. Which, weird, from what I've heard, at least the very beginning, is a huge change to what's in the book. And the book does not take place in Venice. I think it's odd that there's a new edition of Halloween Party out with Haunting in Venice as the title. I think it's going to throw people off when they read this book, and there's no haunting and there's no Venice. But anyway, I enjoyed that well enough. I've read some other Agatha Christie I don't recall, because it was a long, long time ago. I've not seen the Kenneth Branagh movies, but I saw the, is it Peter Ustinov that played Poirot in some of them? I think I've seen some of those. I think I saw Death on the Nile. I saw Death on the Nile. I know I saw that. Old one. But so I could take her or leave her. I don't go out of my way to read or watch Agatha Christie. Maybe I'll watch the Kenneth Branagh movies someday. But then I've got Knives Out. I can watch those. I know that's not Agatha Christie, but it's that kind of thing. But what about you? Have you read the books? Have you seen the movies? Have you seen any of the TV shows? Are you a fan? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers, even though it's nonfiction. Just post spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronan5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is EricSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH5757. If you're on Blue Sky, I am @ELSmith. That's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.